If you have ever felt like you and your spouse were living like roommates instead of lovers, then you need to listen up. This one's going to be for you. We're going to help y'all tackle some of the causes of emotional and physical disconnection. And more importantly, we're going to tell you how to close the gap so that y'all can feel closer than ever before. You need to be having emotional and sexual intimacy. But the thing is, they're tied together, right?
They are.
If you come home after a long day of work, you and your spouse are barely having words, or you're barely connecting before heading to different parts of the house. If this sounds familiar, or you guys are just so busy that you haven't had time for intimate, good fellowship. Y'all know what I'm saying when I say fellowship?
No, they don't understand.
They know what I'm saying. Where you love each other, but all of a sudden something feels off within a relationship. You guys don't have to stay stuck. Today, we're going to unpack a couple of powerful strategies to help you move from roommates to lovers. So let's get started.
Yes. Okay. So before we dive really, really deep into this topic, I want to give you guys a couple of statistics for a second. So it's reported that 15 to 20% of married couples experience sexless marriages where intimacy becomes routine, infrequent, or non-existent. And that's a common indicator of roommate status, right? However, there's some hope. Additionally, research indicates that 45% of couples who feel like roommates can successfully reconnect within 6 months, maybe even sooner. Somebody was like, 6 months, but maybe even sooner, by addressing the underlying issues and actively working on their relationship. So it is possible to get back together.
Yeah. So welcome to the Baloney Podcast. I'm your host, Sean, and that's Lanette. And together we're here to provide you with strategies for winning in life. We're all about transforming your mindsets from a baloney mindset to filet mignon. So we want to uproot all of the lies that we've been believing that have hindered us from being the best version of ourselves. And today we're talking about how to go from roommates to lovers. We're going to debunk any common myths, and we're going to provide some actionable steps to strengthen your family bond. Okay? Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Like it if you're on YouTube. Share it with somebody. And follow us on social media at Sean and Lanette Reed. Let's get into it. So what happens when life gets busy? All of a sudden, you got career, you got kids, you got career, household responsibilities. Now, all of a sudden, you guys aren't connecting the way that you once did. This is super common.
And I want to say it's super easy. It is very easy to go from lovers to roommates, or lovers to like business partners. And you're just managing the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that one of the things to reverse it is to actually recognize some of the patterns that exist that are causing, this state of mind, this way of living, and what are some intentional steps that you're going to take? Because if you fall out of it, you got to take some steps to fall back in.
Yeah. So I would say a good pattern is, we talked about this on the last episode, but like a good pattern to see if you're falling into that roommate status would be like, how often are y'all getting together just to talk? Not talk about the house, not talk about the kids, just talk about yourself and one another. I think that's one pattern that you can say, hey, it's been a long time since we talked.
Especially if you're business partners, if you're serving in church together, if you're volunteering for a certain, whatever together. It's real easy to only have conversations that revolve around your activities or investments or finance. But when it's no longer just time to be invested in the person that you make love to, then that's a dangerous spot.
Yeah.
And it's I love the way that you phrase it. It is easy to fall into that. Because sometimes it's not like the bad things that drive a wedge. But
no, it's just responsibilities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Life be life. And
life be life.
You're just not as connected. You look up and what used to be twice a week, being physically intimate is all of a sudden once a month. Or for some couples that we've seen in the past, it was once a quarter. And you don't want to get to a place where you and your spouse aren't, or you and your mate, person you dating, aren't vested in the other person's interest, their desire,
Yeah.
their wants, like just knowing some of their, the things that they're processing right now, emotionally or mentally. Okay, so let's talk about some of the patterns that exist that couples might find themselves falling into.
Another pattern I would say is if you start, how can I phrase this? If you find yourself putting the children in front of your spouse, their needs, their desires, and your attention is solely on the kids and not your spouse. It's not to say that you don't love and honor your spouse. Like, especially when kids are in that toddler stage or infancy stage, right? You have to give them your attention. However, if you don't kind of like turn to your spouse and say, hey, baby, how you doing? I love you. Or it could be simple things like physical touch, a kiss. Like if you're not being intentional, then over time, it could just feel like a distant relationship.
Yeah, you're just partners in managing household responsibilities.
Yes.
Yeah, so if there's not playfulness.
Yeah, that's a good, yeah.
Playfulness was a really big deal. Like when you start looking
flirting
statistically, and when a person starts to feel like we're no longer as connected, the fire isn't as lit, and it needs to start being rekindled, is when all of a sudden playfulness disappears. You're not as flirtatious. You're not asking the questions about the person. We're focused on all the other priorities or the chores, and we're focused on what's not being done. You're right. You know, all of a sudden we focus, oh, you don't do this like I want you to. You don't do that like I want you to. And it's a complaint fest.
Yeah.
Instead of you remembering the good things about them or who they are, these are some of the telltale signs that it's like, oh, we're kind of drifting from lovers.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the roommate status can happen multiple times within a relationship. So it's not like this just one season. But again, when you're managing multiple things, it can happen throughout different transitions. So I remember we fell into roommate status when our kids were toddler age. And then we fell into another roommate status when we launched our church, right? Because it became all about the people and launching the church and all the things like that. So roommate status isn't a one-time thing. But if you're not careful, roommate status can just happen multiple times.
Yeah, and after a while, it's just a lifestyle.
Right.
Yeah, I think that another sign of it is you're no longer going on date nights. You're not taking, walks together. You really just kind of are in different parts, in the crazy different parts of the home. The bigger your house get, the more space you got to hide from the other person.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like, do you do anything together, or are you still like active together? And I feel like the purpose of this whole podcast is to get you back to a space of saying, like, we can do better.
Yeah.
We deserve better. If you guys have, you've paid the price to be together. You
paid the price.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, it because it takes so much work to find someone.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that we talk about a lot of times, with our kids is like this process now of finding someone. It's so difficult.
It's hard.
It's hard. It's hard out there in these streets. So when you finally have someone that you're committing your life to, like, you have to put in the work. And in this case, it's playful, flirtatious, loving, joyful work. It's like doing activities together. It's going to the movies together or going out to eat, and not just staring off into oblivion or being on social media, but it's just carving out space for a person that's next to God, the most important person in your life, and then showing them that. It's not enough to just be like, well, you should know, or well, I pay the bills, so can't you see I love you? No, because you would have to pay bills regardless if they was there.
That's all I'm saying. If you got to do things single that you got to do married, I need something else.
Yeah, it's got to be something else to show your love.
Yeah,
right. And if somebody was like, well, why we gonna do that? Well, God so loved the world he gave, so if I'm being like my creator, then generosity is a part of who we are. We want to be giving. And so God is a giver who's generous and good, and Satan is a stealer who's selfish and stingy. And so if you want to be like God, you want to be generous, good, and giving. If you want to be like the enemy, be selfish, self-centered and stingy. It's really that simple. And so it's all about me, mine's, my, or it's about us, we, and how we can pour into one another's life. So I would challenge you to think like, man, it can be better.
Yeah.
If we were in that rut, as you were saying earlier, especially when the kids were younger, we got real busy working overtime, bills was due, all that other stuff. But we found ourselves like we didn't want to settle.
Right. We have an event coming up on February 2nd. It is called Unstoppable Love. It's a virtual event, and it's only $20 per couple. And we're going to be talking about how to strengthen the emotional and sexual intimacy in your marriage. And so if you want to dive a little deeper in that topic, and it's like, hey, this is the perfect opportunity. Y'all can sit down, grab your favorite drink, grab your favorite meal, sit down with us, and we're going to help you build that area in your marriage. So go to SeanandLynette.com, or there's a link in the show notes.
Yeah, so click that link. Don't hesitate. Let's make it happen. Share with your friends. We really, really, really are excited about it. It's going to be a 3-hour event.
Yeah.
And talk about sex and how to
Let's talk about sex, baby.
How to make it better. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so a few tips that we want to give you guys.
I'm just, okay.
We want y'all to commit to 20 minutes of uninterrupted conversation every day.
I think it's doable. 20 minutes is not an hour. Now, I want to allow you to think creatively about the 20 minutes. It could be early in the morning, right? So before the kids get up, 20 minutes before you would normally get up, right? Sit down, have some coffee or, whatever. Talk then.
It could be after work.
It could be after work. Some of you work closely to one another to where you could actually call on the phone or meet up for lunch, right? So I want you to think differently about that 20 minutes and don't think always after work.
Yeah, but it's really about sharing your heart. It's about opening up your soul. It's about opening up and expressing like your appreciation. It's about thinking through like, hey, asking questions. How are you? What's going on in your life? And, I would say if you're a person who has fewer words, you're going to have to work a little harder to give them something to work with. But like, if they ask you, what's something you looking forward to? I mean, don't
say dinner.
Right. A one-word answer or something. But really try to like process it a little bit, think about it, and then share something that's vulnerable, that shares your heart, right? And give them the opportunity to see into your heart and make sure that both of you all guard that time as something that's precious.
Yeah, I like that. Another thing that you can do is talk about your physical connection. So if you've been feeling disconnected, start small again. So we're not trying to have you guys do these elaborate steps, but start small. Hold hands while you're watching TV, hug, kiss for at least 6 seconds, right? Share a kiss before bed. Sometimes what I would do, and Sean does this as well, is if we're going to bed and we're both super tired, we'll just hold hands in the bed, or he'll put his hand on my thigh and
Praise.
It doesn't always have to go there.
Yes, it does.
It doesn't always have to go.
I like oxytocin, so let's get it released. Oxytocin is a bonding hormone, and you can rebuild your closeness just by touching the hand or a thigh.
Why are you talking like that?
Because you want a hand or a thigh. So she said, hold the kiss for 6 seconds.
Yes.
So don't be giving these quick pecks.
No
Go-
quick pecks.
Go on in there.
Yeah.
Give it some time. Help that man out. Help that woman out. Y'all enjoy loving together.
Okay. And then probably our last suggestion is go on date nights, right?
Mhm.
So when I say date night, I'm not just saying in the evening, but it could be a Saturday at 12. It could be breakfast, just go on dates. So studies show that couples who have regular date nights are 3.5 times more likely to report being happy in their marriage.
Yeah, man, it makes a difference when you're not just like business partners. And it's fun too because you get out the house, you breathe the air.
You try some new food.
Try something different. Go bowling. When was the last time you went dancing? When was the last time y'all just walked around the park together and just kind of enjoyed the weather or something? Like these things, they are usually how y'all got together.
Right.
So when you do these things again, it becomes very nostalgic. And you guys can keep that flame going, It also gives you a gap between y'all and the kids if you have kids. It gives you space away from in-laws and work and all the rest of this stuff. You get to spend quality time with your friend and just kind of do life together as friends.
Let me say something about these kids. So if you have toddlers, I want to say maybe around 3 years old, all right? If your kid is 3 years old and up, maybe 2.5 if you got a super genius one. Concerning that 20-minute time, if you're like, well, the best time that we have is after work, but then we've got all the kids, there is nothing wrong, and I really encourage you to do this. There is nothing wrong with putting those kids in a room, lock the door, make sure you remove all sharp objects and stuff like that, and make sure they're fed, and teaching them that this is mom and dad time.
Absolutely.
And you're going to sit in this room until we come get you. If you teach them that now, by the time they're teenagers, you would have shown them a great example of what prioritizing your marriage looks like.
Yes.
And it starts with that 20 minutes. So sit them jokers down, put on a movie. Don't give them a tablet because they can discover something on the tablet. Put on a movie, get them some food, 20 minutes, lock the door, don't come out until I come get you. This is mommy and daddy time.
We did that with all three of ours. Let me tell you.
Sure did.
All three did. Because we put the law down and we say, look, this is how it's going to be. We ain't negotiating this. We's in charge of this organization. And you is the subject. You a citizen in this kingdom. The kingdom is owned by the mama and the dad. Okay. So, take your rightful authority in your house and put them kids in their dang own place. You know what I'm saying? You run this. So take this challenge of 20 minutes and just try talking to each other. Try it today. If they're reluctant to do it, tell them to listen to this podcast episode. Stop being jerks. Don't be rude. Love each other and just open up, man.
Yeah.
And if you find it difficult because of something you haven't processed in the past, maybe you're just like, man, you just don't know what we've been through. You don't know what we're going through. Man, we're going through some trauma right now. We're going through grief, all that stuff. Reach out to us, man. Email us at info@SeanandLanette.com. We would love to help you guys through it. We love coaching couples. If you're really struggling, or let's say y'all engaged to be married, or you're thinking about it and you want some coaching and you want some direction as to what to do, reach out to us, man. We'd love to help you guys out. But yeah, the first step is to get back to talking, dating, love one another.
Yeah.
You don't wait for momentum.
Oh, that'll never happen.
Don't wait for momentum. Work yourself into momentum by doing the steps. You have to put in the work, and then as you do it, it's less uncomfortable. It's less awkward, and you'll find yourself back into a place of safety and vulnerability, and that leads to a deeper connection to where you're not like roommates anymore.
Yeah.
That's really the difference maker. So we love you guys, man. Don't forget about February the 2nd, our virtual emotional and sexual intimacy event. Remember, intimacy isn't about just the big stuff. Sometimes it's just the small stuff. It's about being consistent and showing your spouse that you see them, you hear them, you love them, you care for them. Start with 20 minutes of connection.
Yes.
Just be intentional. And I want to challenge you guys, if you want to go deeper in this and you want to have the best sex that you've ever had in your life, then you need to be there on February 2nd at our virtual, emotional, and sexual intimacy event. I say physical.
I mean, yeah.
Because sexual is
It
physical,
is bad.
but it's also emotional.
What is this voice?
That's my bringing sexy back voice. So you need to reserve your spot today.
I'm sorry, guys.
So there's a link in the show notes and you need to click it. Thank you for listening. And as always, stay connected, be intentional, and keep building the bond of love so you can have the marriage that you deserve.